I'm going to give you, like I said in the description, it's a whirlwind tour. Like I can't give you the full, there's no point trying to give you the full history of NLP. NLP is one of these things that has a reputation that comes with it. There's certain associations that go with it. It is a very effective model of getting things done, but it is sparse as a model for getting things done compared to other therapeutic modalities. So I am going to give you some of the techniques, but I'd rather give you the principles and the philosophy so that you can, if you understand the principles, you can actually develop your own techniques with your clients in your own way. Sorry, sir, I didn't ask whether you're a teacher or a coach or...
Yeah, I'm looking for my next move.
You're looking for the next thing you're going to do? Okay, cool. Well, if you're interested even slightly in coaching or mentorship or anything like that, it's huge right now. People are really, really struggling. And I think this is where it fits in with the physical training side of things. Is obviously we have a pandemic that is killing people, which is obesity, and we have a pandemic which is killing people, which is mental health issues. There's a lack of mentorship, there's a lack of guidance, and people are really, really crying out for it. When we are looking to work with people in a way that actually generates real and lasting change, one of the first points that I would want to make with you is nothing is going to change with anybody without consistency over time. So there is really, I hope, if you guys enjoy today's seminar, that we do this again, that we can do this 3, 4, 5, 6 times. What I'm looking to do is to just get the skills out to people who are looking to do this, because there are things that I've been in some sort of coaching position for about 24 years. There's things that I would do that are second nature to me, that I'm just like, oh, everybody knows how to do that. And then you get into a conversation with a PT or a coach or a teacher, and they're like, wow, I never thought that that's how that works. And you go, oh, okay, there must be a way of getting this out to people. So consistency of action over time cannot come from you. You can't do it for your clients. You can't do it for your clients. And you could, and Darren would be the man for this, you could kidnap them and make them do it under duress. But the police get very angry with you when you do that. So what we have to do is, or you just call it military training. She'd be like, I was only joking, officer. What you have to do, what your role is to inspire the people to act in a new way over time. That's not easy. That doesn't happen very easily. When it's, one of the things for those of you working in mental health, is I always try and remind people, you're all right, bud, just grab a chair, you're just having a consensual conversation between two people. There's just two adults in a room having a chat, and you can't force anything. So how do you make it so that they are engaging in a new course of action with discipline over time? And this is the key of what I'm going to try and give you within the next half an hour. What this comes down to, where you want to inspire people to move in that direction, is belief change. And the first set of beliefs we need to change would be in your perception of your role. So, yes, mental health practitioner, yes, you're a coach, yes, you're a PT. You're also, and more importantly, a belief change agent. You've got to change their beliefs. Otherwise, you will not change that consistency of action over time. It doesn't work like that. As soon as they leave the session with you, they're going to go right back to doing whatever they did before. It's just human nature. That's just how we're built. What you have been doing, what we have been doing over a timeline up until this point has inertia and momentum, and you will keep doing it. This morning, Steve asked me where to park. Parking around here is a nightmare. And I said, there's a really good option to go and park for free over there by the Guild. And of course, as soon as he puts the phone down and starts driving, he goes right back to driving. You ended up going, that's where you always park, isn't it?
Got a good space though.
You got a good space. It was a good deal. Worked out well. So you get into, I mean, we've all done it, where you're like, oh, I need to go here. You start driving, listen to music, and just take the same route that you always took. Our patterns have inertia because we're not, whilst we are somewhat rational beings, we don't make rational choices. That's how we talk. We're like, oh, I decided that I was, for example, in PT, I was going to lose some weight. I was going to go to the gym more. And I knew all the reasons why that was a good thing. And then mysteriously, I just discovered I wasn't showing up at the gym. I paid my gym membership and I stayed the same weight. Really strange. There's no change in action. And it's got to be daily. It's got to be consistent, disciplined daily action. So that belief change becomes your direct responsibility. The stuff that you're seeing me do on YouTube, the good stuff, where it works, it's only ever this. So NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, the power of NLP, all the techniques you've seen, everything you've heard about, maybe you've seen Darren Brown doing it on TV, fundamentally for what we're doing, for coaching and training, it's belief change. So you have to see yourself as a belief change agent. The way in which you're going to do that, this is a principle of NLP, not a technique. And it is, you enter their map of reality. To the point of personal training, and mental health can be like this as well. In personal training and coaching, martial arts, and in mental health, we can have a map, we can have an idea of what that person should be doing. And we can take that map and we can just go, kadunk, shove it on them and go, right, that's what you should do. Funnily enough, the human entity does not respond very well to that. Most people who go to the gym, who are trying to lose weight, trying to get stronger or whatever, they actually already know what it is that they need to do. So it's not that they need information. When you try and pour information into people, that's you imposing a map on them. Neuro-linguistic programming goes around that fault, because it is a fault. You enter their map where they are, not the other way around. You don't impose on them the way you would do things. This is hard when you're dealing with groups. On YouTube, where I'm dealing with just faceless, I don't know who I'm speaking to or what their background is, that side of NLP is very, very hard to do. There are ways around it, but it's difficult. With an individual, if you have that time and that space with them, find out what their map of reality is, enter it, and change it from the inside. This requires an awful lot of trust and requires vulnerability on the part of the client. So if somebody's opened that space for you to enter their map, go quietly, go patiently, and be very, very respectful. Because if you go in traipsing your dirty boots around and making a mess, they will never, ever do it again. It can be very, very damaging. That's at the therapeutic level. But personal training has got a lot more, I think, to do with the therapeutic process than just showing people, different movements. So you do have to enter their map of reality. Some people, the gym's a really, really good example. How many of you like going to the gym? Actually enjoy, you get a buzz out of it? Yeah, okay. But we know, as people who like the gym, we still have compassion for the people who walk up to a gym, look at those bright lights, hear that banging house music, hear weights clanging, sweaty men and women going, "Whoa," and think, fucking hell, can I go home, please? It's not a fun environment for them. We like it. Like, yes. Where are the toys? You walk in the gym and if you're into it, you're like, oh, they've got that machine. I've not seen that for years. I'll have a play with that. I'll have a play with that. That's how I go in. I love it. But for some people, it's really, really traumatic. Therapy, similarly. If I'm going to do a therapeutic process, for me, I'll go with a skip in my stuff. I go, wonder what fun things I'll find out about my fucked up past today. Yay! Other people show up to therapy and they're looking at me like, what's he going to do? Don't make me cry. And I'm like, I'm not going to make you cry. It's cool. It's fine. Just chill. Just relax. So you enter their map and you generate all this trust. Trust, and in NLP, typically it would be called rapport. If you have the client's trust, if you're a teacher, a group leader, and you have the group's trust, if you offer them clunky techniques that are old-fashioned and out of date, but they trust you and they apply with diligence, you're going to get way better results than if you have no trust and the best techniques in the world. You get that? It's not about the quality of your techniques. That's why when people say to me, what do you think of this modality in therapy? What do you think of EMDR? What do you think of CBT? What do you think? I'm like, these are meaningless questions. These are the kinds of arguments we used to have on self-defense forums back in 2005. Is Krav Maga better than Muay Thai. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
I'll agree with that.
And it just goes round and round because, and I don't want to go too esoteric, but it is worth thinking about it this way. Muay Thai doesn't exist. Therapy doesn't exist. Coaching doesn't exist. These are words that we're applying to processes between human beings. And remember, it's consent. It's consenting. When you join the military and they take you through a military process, they remove consent, which is why it's so powerful. It's you get the fuck out of bed or you will be physically hurt. And you go, I think I'll get out of bed actually. Suddenly I feel motivated to do it. It's way more powerful because it's immersive. We as coaches, if you have somebody, when I was working in the schools, I'd have the kids for maybe 4 or 5 hours of contact time. That's it. And the schools would be saying, can you make them go from not wanting to stab people to wanting to study for their GCSEs? And I'm like, in 5 hours without psychedelic drugs? I'll try, but it's really, really hard to do it. But if you generate that trust and that rapport, from that place of trust and rapport, you can start guiding them in a new direction. But you need to show that you're willing to enter their map. This means, in the gym perspective, when you see that client come through the door, you'll need to look at them, or the coaching perspective, mental health perspective, get a clear intent that you need to be, how should I put it, attuned to their emotional state. They might not walk through the door bouncing. They might not walk through the door looking too happy. You need to get a sense of where they're up to. And the best way to do that is to just give yourself the space to look at them and listen. And you can look and you can listen and you can be patient and you can have that space to just go, hey, how you doing? Where are you up to? Because you had an idea for what you were doing with them that session. You already had an idea. Nobody goes in blank, and it might not be the right thing for them. You know, if somebody's in a not high resource emotional state and you were planning on driving them through boxing and some powerlifting routine, it's probably not the day for them. And if you drag them through that, they're going to hate it and you're actually going to lose that trust. If you were thinking of doing goal setting with somebody on that day, or you were like, we've worked up to here, I've got a map where you're recovering, we're on session 7, we don't need to talk about trauma anymore, now we're going to talk about goals, but you see them come through the door, they're clearly upset, you've got to drop it. You need to re-enter their map of reality and go, okay, what does this client need from me right now? What do they need from me right now? There's an old adage in sales and marketing, and I believe it's very, very true, which is the client who comes to your shop or comes to your website is only asking one question: what's in it for me? What's in it for me? So you reverse that question when you're seeing a client. How can I serve this human being? How can I serve this human being? I am going to Kale to get like my bench press up and squat more and whatever else, but I'm also paying for that experience, the human to human experience, that contact of somebody making me feel like I could do better, somebody making me feel like I have done well. This is another a little aside here when it comes to another NLP technique, which is called anchoring. Anchoring is pretty much the simplest definition, which most of you would be familiar with, would be Pavlovian conditioning. Pavlov fed dogs and rang a bell, and then eventually all he had to do was ring a bell, and then his dogs would start to salivate, even without the presence of food, because they'd made a neural connection between the sound of the bell and the food. I want you to consciously anchor your clients to the sight of your face and the sound of your voice to feeling good. So when they see you and they come through the gym door, they're not feeling that good, and then they see your face, they're like, okay, at least I can feel like I can do this. Anchoring them to the sound of your voice and the sight of your face is really easy when you're about to spend an hour with them in the gym or an hour with them in therapy. It's super easy. You've got all of their attention is right on you. If you're in therapy, there's nothing else to look at but your face. So if they are feeling good, which is a reasonable outcome for all of you to have, even if it's hard therapy, even if it's grief counseling. Ultimately, Okay, they're not going to feel good cheerful, but they might feel good as relieved,
calm,
peaceful, cleansed,
listened
centered, heard, being heard. All of you have that power, by the way, the power to make somebody feel heard. Personal training. Why do people really go to a personal trainer? Oftentimes, unless they're actually competing, they're actually going to go and do Muay Thai, or they're going to get up on stage and do bodybuilding. Between me and you coaches, when you hire a coach or you hire a personal trainer, it's not a naive, straightforward gesture. I want to get from point A to point B. This is the man to train me to do it. Tuk, 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 tuk. It's never that. It's a semi-symbolic gesture. I feel like shit. Oh, can somebody help me? Let me throw a lifeline over there. What are you going to do for me? They're already not in a great state, because if they were, they'd already be doing it. So we can assume they don't feel that good. So if you take this out of context, you'd be like, Richard Grannon says, all we have to do is make people feel good, and that's the essence of training. No, but it is your responsibility and it is your power to make people feel good whilst they're being trained, whilst they're going through therapy. And all that time is being anchored to you, anchored to the sound of your voice, the sight of your face. So like, I generally feel more hopeful. I generally feel like I have more potential. That's a good service that you're offering. And being heard, being seen. This is huge now. In the age of the mobile phone and the tech and the social media, everybody's head's dipped down in the phone all the time. Everybody's attention is conditioned to be fractured. That means that when you're in a conversation with them, Terry, they're thinking about something else. They're planning their seminar,
doing this morning.
like someone was doing with you. And that hurts, doesn't it, Terry?
It caught me to the quick. It caught me to the quick.
So if you can, this is how starved people are. And they're not going to tell you this because it would be a weird thing to say, and they might not even know. People are thirsting for human contact, thirsting for it. I don't feel too good. Maybe I had an argument with my girlfriend or bad traffic or whatever. And then I go and do a session, and we have a bit of a laugh, and we have a bit of a chat, and I feel seen and I feel heard, and every once in a while I get some encouragement, because it's not normal to get encouragement as adults. That stops when you're about 10, really. That's really good. Wow, well done, did you do that? That's awesome. You don't do that over the age of 10, but it still feels good now when somebody does it. That's how when I was training people in martial arts, that's what I would do. I'd stand behind them. This also is a part of anchoring, and it's an NLP technique. I told you this was a whirlwind tour. Here's a little NLP thing. Therapy usually is done face-to-face. Neuro-linguistic programming usually is done side-by-side. The reason why is you're entering their map of reality, and you're supposed to sit next to them and go, how are you feeling? What is it that you're seeing right now? What is it you're looking at? Here's my depression. Okay, let's look at your feelings of whatever together. We're on the same side, literally. Personal trainers do that, have to do that, because you can't stand in front of somebody usually when they're doing weights. They stand to the side and to the back of them. It's a really good position to be in if you're trying to offer somebody suggestions. The other things that NLP is very famous for is post-hypnotic suggestions. We'll do a whole day on this. Hypnosis, I think you all know, is not somebody going, falling asleep and obeying your every command. That's not how hypnosis works. But we know that post-hypnotic suggestions work in an open format, conversational way, to the extent that if you put the idea in somebody's head, they have to think about it, because that's how the brain works. Pink elephants called Terry. It's like, I don't want to think about a pink elephant called Terry, but you have to, because that's where Terry is. He's a pink elephant.
Why Terry?
I just like it. It makes me happy. I'm anchored to the sight of your face when I'm mean to you. That's like anchors huge feelings of pleasure. I promised you cake, and I will buy you cake.
Well, you want to make it.
I'm a big anchor. So, that guy's a total anchor. So the post-hypnotic suggestions that you can offer, there's away from NLP, just psychology. They did this piece of research where they got people to write down certain words and to read certain words, and then they finished the experiment. They said, the experiment's over, you can leave now. And that's actually when the experiment began. They would see how quickly they walked down a corridor. That's all they were looking at. And they found definitively that if you focused for half an hour on words like slow, tired, lazy, words like that, you will walk slower than if you're looking at words that say speed, fast, energy. So when you're training people, you have that power. You touch them on the shoulder and say, that's a really good set, well done, that's awesome. I think you found that easier than the last one, didn't you? Because in their heads, they're going, this is hard, I hate this. It looks to me like you're enjoying yourself. And they'll be like, does it? Maybe I'm enjoying this. Yeah, you are, because this is fun. That's the heavy hypnotic suggestion. This is fun, isn't it? But if you're aware of that and you control your language, you won't say things like, listen, next week when you come in, it is going to be a hard session. We're doing back and you don't like back, and it's never, never, never. Next session, you're going to smash it. It's going to be awesome. You're going to really enjoy this because it suits you. This is the perfect thing for you. With the therapeutic process, same thing. You do the same thing. You offer that same kind of, you preload, you encourage, and you say, this is fun and it is easy. And making things fun and easy is just a good idea. All humans respond to that. Nobody wants hard and painful. Everybody wants fun and easy. You know, some therapeutic processes are damn hard to make fun and easy because they hurt. But the fun and easy side of it is, okay, this is going to suck. You can have a sense of humor about the fact that it sucks. You can laugh about the fact that it's a sucky process. And the fun and easy side of it is what comes afterwards is better. You will feel better after that. So that's the post-hypnotic suggestion side of it. Remember, if you can, this kind of thing works better if you're next to the person or behind the person, simply because that's where their internal dialogue comes from. That's how simple we are. So you stand behind them, it's like a voice in their head. And you can use that to your advantage because they'll walk away and they'll be like, it's like you were in the gym with me. I could hear you saying, good set, good rep, that's awesome. And you go, oh, that's weird. I don't know how that happened. I was standing next to them like that. So you keep it, if you can, your voice should be to the back and to the side. That's good personal training advice. It's good coaching advice if you can. Even if you found any kind of sort of way to get to that position, whiteboarding stuff with people in therapy is good. You whiteboards, yeah, they're great. 100%. It's great. It feels organic. It feels like you're taking, and then if you drift off slightly, you can be re-anchored back. The whiteboard becomes an anchor. Oh, I always feel like I'm in control when everything's written on a whiteboard. It just feels more neat. It just, you know, that becomes its own anchor, and it allows you to sit next to them, to the side of them, which is helpful. Okay, so the belief change element of this that you're moving towards is going to come down to whatever your intent is for the client. So make sure, that's the 10th time I've done that. I'm going to keep doing it until I eventually fall. If you have a client coming to you that you have very clear intent for what you want from them, not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically. You're doing the circuit with people, aren't you? Which is like, it's high energy, it's quite militaristic, but I think you have an idea of what the emotional state you want from them is from that whole sort of thing. That, having that intent there means no matter what state they come in with, remember we said about entering their map, if they're not in a high resource state, you can just go back to wherever you want them to be. So you need to have an intent for the client that is stronger than the intent of whatever emotional flashback or neurotic drive is in them that day. Your intent for them will always triumph whatever it is that they're going through, because they probably aren't in an intentful state, because people aren't. Like usually they're not walking around going, my intent today is to feel really good and confident, because if it was that case, the world would look completely different. It's just that people don't use intent. They don't use it. So at the beginning of the session, whatever you're going through personally as a human being as well, because not every day is fucking unicorns and rainbows for you either, is okay, for this space, for this time I have with this client, I'm going to do this belief change work with them, which is nothing short of the alteration of their consciousness. You're altering their consciousness. Just be aware and think of it from their point of view. They come through the door, what do they see? You start talking to them, what do they hear? Your state transmits. This is a big useful technique from NLP. When I saw Richard Bandler, did some training with Richard Bandler about 3 years ago now, and it was particularly on hypnosis. And when he does hypnotic training with people, he uses this, I think, more than anything else. So if you want somebody to feel confident and happy and cheerful in a gym environment or mental health environment, you have to go there first. If you want them to be, say if the work is hard, it's painful, it's grief counseling, that type of thing, the state that I shoot for, you don't have to, but I find it useful, is confidence and bravery and curiosity. Confidence, bravery, and curiosity. So you have to go into that state first. So when you go into that state, if you're coming from bravery and curiosity, and we're going to explore painful childhood experiences, if you focus on the state, the language you use to get there will fall in line with that. Where you would be saying, okay, let's explore this incident. And let's just see how that made you feel at the time, how it makes you feel now, and let's see if that's played out into any patterns in your life. The tone of voice I'm using is like, let's see if the oil needs changing on your car. Let's just see, but it's you and me together. Let's just see. Because you're opening a door that they haven't opened for years, and they're frightened. They're like, oh, no, we're just gonna check it out. And then if we don't like it, we can stop. Your intent and your state for that will lead them through it more powerfully than if you try and use a technique or specific words. So the final NLP technique I'm going to give you on the trust end of the spectrum is called pacing and leading, because you cannot do an intro to NLP talk without talking about pacing and leading. It's not allowed. Pacing and leading would be you having the intent for what state you want your client to go into, seeing what state they're in. Let's do a simple one. You want them happy, but they are sad. You don't hit them with your happiness when they're in a sad state. That is grating and irritating. Don't do that. You need to meet them at their level. That's called pacing. It probably comes from running, right? If you're running alongside somebody, you pace with them. If you're going to lead them, you'd start to run faster. You could think of it as running. So you get into step with where they're up to. Doesn't mean you need to go all the way down to where they are. Then there'll be 2 depressed people in the room. That's not helpful. But you need to find out what their emotional state is. Go down so that you're speaking at the same volume and the same pace as them, so you're not annoying them with your cheerful happiness. And then slowly and organically, as you're talking to them, you lead them out of the state they're in. That's a pace and a lead. They're not feeling very good, meet them where they're at, and then slowly lead them where you want them to be. This takes time. It takes practice for you to do that non-consciously. But if you get good at it, every time they see you, they find themselves feeling good, and they don't know why. They won't know why, because there's no weird, cheesy technique that we're doing where, you know, there's people who teach anchoring as like you have to actually poke them on the arm and go, nyeh, and then they feel good every time you go, nyeh. Don't do that weird, cheesy shit. That's not, be suave, be subtle with them, and respect the person. Respect that that's a human being. They've got their own experiences, they've got their own thing, they've got their own map, they're bringing other issues to the table that have nothing to do with you, that have nothing to do with anything that you've said. We're complex entities, and this coaching process, we can do a lot of good, but it is limited. And I think it's understanding that limitation and going, okay, this is a limited process. Let me give you as much as I can within these limitations. I think that's the best route to actually inspire somebody to engage in a new type of action, even when you're not there. Even when you're not there. Okay, I have a tendency to go on. I will now take questions. How dare you, sir? He has an accusatory face. If you've got any question about anything I've just said, now's a good time to ask it.
Yeah, so you spoke about beliefs. So my concept of what a belief is, I read Tony Robbins' book a few years back, Awakening the Giants, and he talks about a table. So the table itself, for example, as the belief, and the reference point as the legs. So you believe you can't draw, and maybe once in school someone said, oh, that's a crap drawing, bump, reference point, so on and so forth.
That's
and
it.
the build. Now, breaking that down, and then just jumping a little bit now, you talk about entering the client's map. So how do you change their beliefs of themselves? Because I've got 2 clients, for example. I've got one, George. He's physically fit. He's a young man, physically fit. But every time he comes in, we all start the same. He sort of gives himself an excuse of, I'm not feeling it today. I'm not there. And then he'll train. But he's physically capable. And I'm always, and I'm always trying to sort of uplift him and be positive and sort of saying, yes, you can, and so on and so forth. But then by the same token, I've got another client. Paul, he's 69 years old. The man deadlifts 80 kilos. The man runs. He does all of these things. And I understand that it's down to his belief and changing beliefs. So how do I have to enter, so how do I enter his map?
George's map.
George's map, yes.
You let George be George. Oh, it sucks today. Does it suck today, George? All right, mate, we're going to do it anyway. If you try and uplift him, that's going to be exhausting. And it probably...
Can be at times.
Yeah, and it's going to be exhausting for you, and it will make him double down on his map. So you've gone, no, George, you're all right. And George is saying, I'm not all right. Now, if I had a client like that, I'd go, okay, George, you say you're not all right. Let's do this anyway. What are we going to do? He's coming at it from his point of view. He's still getting the training done, right? There are problems there, I would think, that probably go beyond the scope of what could be fixed inside of a 1-hour training session. Some people just have a really negativistic way of perceiving the world and perceiving themselves. So definitely the wrong thing to do, or not the unskilled thing to do, would be to like hit him with positivity. Okay. Because he's gonna win that fight. So you could even do a pattern interrupt and be like, because you're usually positive, you could pattern interrupt him and go, yeah, everything fucking sucks. I suck, you suck, everything sucks. I don't even know if we should bother training today. He'd be shocked by that. And he may go, well, it's not that bad. He'd be like, you sure, George? Because I just feel like shit, man. You're all right. You need to talk to somebody, mate. You know, and then instead of, it's like Aikido, isn't it? So we can either go head to head with the energy, or you lead the energy and then remove them back to another place. But you want to be skillful with it. And that's, it can be a gauntlet thrown down. Your client may be throwing down gauntlets. They do that in therapy. That's challenge you. Everything sucks and it's shit and I'm a piece of shit. No, you're fine. You're a beautiful, wonderful. I'll just be like, yeah. Wow, that's cool, isn't it? Maybe everything does suck. Wow, yeah. Why is that? And just don't give it that sort of bounce back. Do you need George to not be doing that? Because if you do need him to not be doing that, I would let go of that. So the belief change would be for you to just go, George is cool, man. That's how he gets shit done. Some people have a really negativistic motivational strategy. Over time, there's no way that your positivity won't rub off on him. And he may even be winding you up, man. I don't know. He may be like, yeah, sucks. Just to see you go, no, it's good. You know, and he might be doing it unconsciously. It can be an unconscious drive, but yeah, that's, I mean, in my line of work, as I've gone more towards like childhood trauma and PTSD, we got loads of that. We got loads of people just going, everything sucks. And the Zen response to that would be to just mirror it and go, okay, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. You're saying that everything sucks. And then you're just totally present. And you just look at them and go, everything sucks. Bong. You just ring the bell and they're like, whoa. There's no resistance. You just totally accept it and go, cool, but we're still going to do what we're doing.
No tango.
No tango. No ping pong. No therapeutic ping pong. Any other questions on anything I covered there? Yes?
When there's a client who's totally focused on what they want to do, they're in a panic, no calming them down, and they're not listening,
bucket of ice water. Shake them. Stop that. It depends on your style, because you're doing your work. That's good. That tells me that you're doing your work, and I know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing because you just hit a landmine. That's a defense mechanism. And they'll only be defending because you at some point have entered their map of reality, and then they're going, oh shit, I might have to actually change now. See, they're sneaky. Clients sneaky, man. Humans are sneaky. I don't really come here to change. No, I came here for you to give me something. And you're like, I ain't got nothing to give you but change. And then it's your sense of humor, it's your determination, it's your capacity to see outside of it. Sometimes I've said to clients, like, do you mind if I drive for a bit? Because like, you're driving right now, but you suck. That's why you're here, because you suck. And I'll just say that to somebody's face. That's my style, and it works. In other circumstances for other people, you know, you might just want to feed it back and just be like, hey, you seem to be going into a thing right now where you're not listening to me. And the thing is, we only have an hour with each other, and it's just a consenting conversation between two adults. And my main concern is to give you as much value as I can, because you're paying me, and we've only got this hour. So do you mind if I just direct you for a second? Because I've heard you say that same sentence 15 times now. It's quite annoying. No, don't tell them it's annoying. Do you mind if I try and assist? Can I help you with this? The other, it's an overlooked element of NLP. When neuro-linguistic programming is used therapeutically, it consciously and deliberately removes the ping pong. Richard Bandler is great at that. He's just not very gentle with the way he does it. He's one of the founders of NLP, and he'll say, sit down and shut the fuck up. And then he'll put the client into a trance and then just do straight hypnosis, which it sounds savage. It sounds really savage, but if I let my client just practice their neuroses, which is what they're doing when they're sparring with me and they're getting really good. Well, you didn't think about this and you didn't think about this. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'll learn that for next time. They're getting stronger at that. Really, for it to be therapeutic, it should be 80% you and 20% them speaking in the room. Which is why the hypnosis or visualizations or whatever you want to call that particular side of it is a really good idea, because they're running programs that don't work. This is an NLP frame. It's the boom of computing. It's the late 70s, right, where they developed most of their ideas. It's California. That's where they're from. That's where they're coming from. So they started looking at human beings as computers running programs. So in this scenario, we'd say, well, this client is running a program. Does the program serve them or not? Obviously not, because they're there to be helped, and they're just talking over you, and they're not listening. So it's not the client that you need to shut down, it's the program. Pattern interrupt, straightforward challenge, something shocking, or go super gentle. You'll have to calibrate it to the client. I'll do it both ways. And actually just let them know consciously, like, hey, this is what you're doing right now. You're here to get help from me. I can't help you if you're doing what you're doing. So from the programming point of view, it makes way more sense. And this is my hope. This is what I want to do with these talks I'm going to be doing, is actually personal training and therapy have an awful lot to offer each other, because we're not bodies and minds. It's one unit. It's the same thing. And really what I found is the therapeutic process for the worst cases where the damage is really bad, it looks like personal training. I have to grow skills and strengths in a person that doesn't have them. That's why a lot of therapy can fall off, because they don't have the skill and the strength to hold it. So it just slips right past them. So you're like, oh, okay, I have to actually kind of parent you now. Skill and strength training is conditioning, and it can only take place over time. That's a straight personal training model. So perhaps some of the belief changes for us in it's therapy you're doing, right? It's nutritional. Yeah. At the more therapeutic end of the spectrum is the way that we think of therapy is very Freudian. It's like two civilized adults having a restrained conversation in a room with a couch. Humans just don't really function like that. We don't really work like that. So yeah, if you can find a way to change the game up a bit, that would help. Did that help? Okay, cool. Any other questions?
Yeah. Probably more of a practical question, but if the coach or the client always associates feeling good when they've had like a session with you, how do you keep the boundaries healthy so that they don't start thinking you're a mate?
Yeah, you let them think you're amazing, and you start your own cult. Yeah, and then you're the cult leader. Why are you doing that to me? Listen, I'm a responsible...
Use examples that show up, you know.
Yeah. It happens. It happens in coaching, and it happens in therapy. The tendency for clients to fall in love with their therapist was so commonplace in early psychoanalysis. They had a word for it. It's transference. So you become mummy. you become daddy, you become like primary object, and it goes straight into the unconscious, and before they know it, they're dreaming about you, and they're like, oh, this is what love is. I love my coach. Yeah, and you can explain that to people, and you can let them know that's a mechanism that's playing out.
Fall in love with me, you better be careful.
Yeah, I don't want you. You got to do the thing with the eyebrows. You got to be like, listen,
in love with me.
I don't want you to fall in love with me. That's a post-hypnotic suggestion, like everybody else. So, if you explain, if you think it's going that way, you can explain it. It's a very, very subtle. You do all this, and then to avoid what you're doing, right at the very end, you have to shift lanes. You have to do this really subtle. God, I'm thinking of a ninjutsu. They have this move in ninjutsu. It's called a yoko uruki. It means a shadow step. Where at the very end, to get out of the way, you do the shadow step. So your yoko uruki is you have to make sure at the end of every session that this is them doing it for them and not you. So their agency is in them. So whatever it is you're offering, you have to explain, look. So I would always use like an internal parenting model. That's the way I would explain it. You could use an internal coach model. It's like, okay, yeah, you want me for 10 weeks, but you don't want to be paying me for the rest of your life. You want like a PT inside your own head, right? You want to be your own PT. Okay, this is it. I'm training you to be your own PT. So one day you won't need me. So one day you'll be able to do this without me. That's the way I would yoko uruki out of the cult and the stalking and shit gets ugly. Any other questions? Okay, guys. I suggest take a 15-minute break and grab some coffee, and then we'll turn the chairs around and we'll just have a general chat to each other. So we'll meet back here at 1. Is that cool?
Thank you.
Sound. Thank you.
Thank you.